Okay, guys, I thought I would. I've been messing around with some different kinds of joinery, and I thought I'd show you some of the things I've been playing with. Maybe you'll find some of them interesting. This is an interesting little joint here. Try to hold it up here where you can see it. It's sometimes called the pliers joint. It's made in a single piece of wood. A fellow named Ernest Warther in Dover, Ohio made this kind of famous. He's made hundreds of thousands of them, and now his kids and grandkids have made them. But it basically takes 10 cuts. I did this with a utility knife. And you take this one single piece of wood, and by making judicious cuts in the right places, the thing opens up and forms like a little pair of pliers, or scissors if you like, and the pieces are held captive in there. So it's kind of clever. It's really kind of satisfying once you make all these appropriate cuts, then you make the final one and you slice it and the thing pops open, and bingo, there you go. You have a set of pliers that works like that. And if you Google Arthur Museum, you'll see shows you how to make those. I wanted to take it and see if I could make something a little more useful with it. People have taken that same basic joint and made book stands out of it, so I thought I'd make a small stand for my cell phone. And so this started out as a piece of poplar about 7/16 of an inch thick. And basically you go in and chisel out these places here on each side and slice the joint in the middle, and then run it on the bandsaw on both ends. As soon as you get right there in the middle, whoop, it pops right open. And so it forms this nice little joint that's sort of captive there. Got the two pieces captive. Set your cell phone on there and then fold it back up again. So kind of an interesting little joint there. I don't even know what the technical name for that is. This is a joint. Some of us talked about this at the time it came out in fine woodworking. It's a Japanese scarf joint. So, you know, scarf joints for connecting two long beams together. And let me tell you, this thing is some kind of complicated. It took me probably 14 to 18 hours to make this joint. I mean, I put an enormous amount of time. Maybe somebody good could do it a lot faster, but it took me a lot of time. But it's basically these two pieces, and there's no glue in here, and you really don't need to glue the joint. It's really, really strong the way it is and holds well. This pin right here, which got a slight taper to it, let me drive that out. It holds the whole thing together. So I can put this over the hole in the bench, take that out, and once that comes out, then these pieces here, they're actually kind of hard to get apart. So I'll put this on here. There's a lot of surface area on this thing, so it really holds tight. There you can see how the two pieces come apart. They come apart like this, and then voila. And it turns out they're identical. The two halves are. So they go together like that. A lot of work trying to get these things where they mate properly. But you have all of this long area here. I mean, if you glued this thing, it'd never come apart, but you don't even have to worry about gluing it, because when you put it back together, see, it just slides in like that, and then pull the halves together, and then you drive your pin in. There's a slight taper to the pin, and as that pin goes in there, it pushes the parts back out again, and that holds it nice and snug. And then you've got these notches here that keep it from any sort of twisting or rotational motion that way. Pretty clever. It's a Japanese scarf joint. It's got a Japanese name, but no way I'd ever be able to pronounce it. The trick they're making, it's making this story stick. That article in Fine Woodworking tells you how to do this, but basically you use that to lay it out, and that helps you size all the parts of the joint. Pretty clever. And then these are a lot of fun. It's sometimes called an impossible dovetail. And you sort of take a look at it, you can see this was some old pallet wood I had, and some places I didn't get it as tight as it should be, but you can sort of imagine how difficult this is to get together. It's kind of tedious actually to cut the thing. This is a piece of old maple and old walnut from some firewood pile of mine from 30 years ago. But you can see where I've used the marking gauge in a couple of places on here to mark it out. I did the majority of this work on the bandsaw, but it's really kind of tricky to get that. It teaches you to really follow your line, because if you don't follow the line, it's hopeless to get this thing to fit together. But that's the impossible dovetail. You kind of imagine what it takes to put that together. And then this one here, this was a bugbear. It took a while too. So this is again, this is a piece of beech from the yard and a piece of maple out of the firewood, and the walnut out of the firewood pile. But the idea here was to try to get a dovetail so that the handle won't come off, which is kind of interesting until you consider how you put the thing together. This is the way the tenons actually go in it. A central tenon here, and then these two side dovetail tenons that go all the way down. You can see how the mating mortise is made for each of those. Hopefully you can see that. And then it comes down here and then butts on there, so there's no way that the thing can actually come off of there. So that's a tricky joint to make, really tricky. Puts a lot of stress on the wood to try to get it together, but I thought you might find that interesting too. So anyway, that's some joints that I've been playing around with here. Thought you guys might want to see that.